Hello everybody. So welcome to the shop. So I've been working here in this garage essentially for pretty much about 4 or 5 years now, pretty much since 8th grade. And I think we'll make Excalibur out of this thin piece of cherry. Now with that being said, I'm going to draw it all out, measure it all out. Now this is just going to be the blade and tang. I'm not going to make the hilt or the handguard out of it, and even then I have to shape up. So pretty much just the blade and the tang is going to be made out of a wood similar to this. So I have access to numerous power tools. I have access to a miter saw, bandsaw, drill press, sanding drum, 2 sanding belts, a scroll saw, and a couple other stuff laying around. So let's get started. Let me draw everything up. So there we go. There's a little clip of me finishing the drawing on the blade. So I just finished drafting up King Arthur's sword Excalibur from the 2017 movie. Kind of hard to see. Let me get it closer. I have some photos that was posted on Instagram. So the blade does have a little bit of a, it turns into more of an acute angle at the bottom of the blade. So it goes up like this instead of just coming straight down. So on a straight board, it looks kind of weird when I get closer. So it looks kind of cockeyed because it is cockeyed. It's drawn cockeyed. With that being said, I'm going to use a bandsaw right here and cut it out. So yeah, if you're under 18, do this with adult supervision. The reason why they trust me to do it is because I've been working with this thing since I was 12. So yeah, if you're unexperienced, do not work on this alone. I'm only working on it because I understand the machine and I still have a fear of it, which is why I will never get too close to it. So yeah, just a tip. Always wear safety glasses too. So basically what I'm doing is, now that I've been able to section off parts of the blade that I didn't necessarily need because they had wood hanging over, I went back and I went around my line work so I had enough wood left over just in case I needed to give me some leg room so I could get a fine sanding down when I was done with it. And right now I'm starting to go down the side of the blade, but eventually you'll see the tip of the blade touch the wall because I'm running out of space. So right about... I stopped. I was smart before that. I wasn't that smart for the other side, though. I learned pretty quickly that because I have a size limitation, I had to go back and get it from the side. So I had a little piece sticking out. So what I did is I went to the side of that piece and cut it out. And then running it back to the other side of the blade, I was trying to get as far as I could, but couldn't get any further. So you can see me turning the blade and hitting it so that I get the little piece out. I do the exact same thing on the other side, but this entire time I'm trying to give myself some leg room, so yeah, like I said earlier, I'm trying to leave as much space as possible for me to work with, which is pretty close to the line work. Here's another instance of me touching the wall because I'm not paying attention. Yep, and you don't know how irritating that is, because I built something that was like 6 feet tall, and it was so hard to cut out, so I had to use a miter saw, but I didn't use a miter saw for this, and you guys can see the little piece left over in the next clip of when I was actually trying to cut this out. So yeah. So that clip you guys saw, that was me getting a rough cut of the blade, pun intended. I got some sanding to do, which you guys can see. I left extra just in case I had some material that I need to take off. I know for a fact I have to do this with a much smaller blade, but that is going to be the part where the pommel will glue on. So I now have almost perfect measurements of where my hand goes and the actual size of the blade. So yeah, I got not maybe a couple more hours of work to do until this thing is done. So yeah, I'll come back to you when this is all sanded down. So here we go. I got my sanding done. I decided to leave the tang in place. There's a little bit of a curve on it But yeah, the sanding's done on the blade. Now I just got to plane it out. What that means is I got to make it completely flat. You can see there's a bevel to the back. In fact, let me just straighten it this way. There's a lip on the edge right here, and it picks up in the center. So yeah, so 20 minutes more worth of work, and I got 2 more pieces to make. Let's see how that goes. So I've drawn out a tiny template for the cross guard or hand guard, whatever you want to call it. So what I did is I originally just set a piece of paper on the table like this, put the blade on top of it, and lined it up like that. That's pretty much how I drew it. What I did is I traced out where the edge of the blade was, or the handle was right there, and then I put a line on the opposite side of the tang like that. And what I did is I took scissors and cut it out. I folded a piece of paper in half, cut that side out, and then boom, double piece. So now what I can do is I can go in here, I can set this in the exact middle of it and see if that's where I want it. And that's how it looks. So I got a big piece of pine I can cut this out of, which is good. And I'm going to do that. It's thicker than the blade by about 1/4 inch on each side, so we're good. So I traced that piece out and I cut it out on that big piece of pine. So now what I get to do is I get to measure where exactly and how wide do I have to cut. So that middle piece right there is just a marker of where the center of the rectangle is going to be for the tang to fit through. So yeah, I got to make it fit so it just sits right underneath the hilt, or right underneath the edge of the blade, but goes a little bit over on a triangle. So I have to divot down a rectangle in the center of the top of the handguard. So, yep. So this clip is me drilling out the cavity for when the tang will slide through. And what I'm doing is I'm using a small drill bit at first, and then I'm going to progress my way up to a larger one. It's about the width of a pen. I didn't check the measurement on it. I literally put a pen up to the tang, and it was perfect width, and then I took the pen up to a drill bit. And yeah, very, very technical speak, you know, 100%. Definitely not making up as I go. One thing I wanted to add, I didn't wear safety glasses for this, so don't do what I do. Just another one of those moments where I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. And it's not really safe to use an angled piece and drill straight down as well. But I've done it before and I was confident in my abilities, but you can still see there's some movement. It requires a lot of pressure down on the right side, but usually do it with a clamp. In this clip, I'm taking it through a planer, or not a planer, sorry, a drum sander, and what it's doing is pretty much just a big rolling sanding roll, and it's pushing it through the other side, kind of like a planer does, but it's a lot smaller. I run it through a couple times trying to get a perfect size and make it all leveled out, because the blade had a bevel on it, which was very irritating to work with. So yeah, I'm just cleaning up everything and trying to get all uniform, including the front, which I accidentally, yet on purpose at the same time. I knew it was going to happen, and I still did it. I removed the runic artwork on the top of the blade, which was slightly irritating, but I'm going to repaint it a bit eventually, so it didn't really affect anything. So this clip is me taking to the small sanding belt that I have, and what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the hilt is just perfect, trying to get it as lined up as possible so it can actually fit. And I did, which is really nice. It's so satisfying to watch it here. So I kind of cheated. I did drill this out so that I can put the tang through it. The difference is, instead of just a flat bottom of the blade and dremeling out a gap for the blade to sit into, I cut the blade perfect angle so that when this is put on, it just immediately just locks into place. And once it's glued, nobody can tell. Like, that's the simple trick. And if you're working with wood, obviously, I don't know, it doesn't really work like that with metal. But yeah, now I have the handle started. I sanded all the drawing off so I can get the blade perfect, which you guys saw a clip of. But now what I have to do is I have to make the pommel, and then I can start painting it, and then I can wrap it. I'm really excited, because I'm almost halfway there. And here's my pommel piece. It's just another one of the pieces of pine. It's the same wood that came from this, actually the same block. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a section of this and then insert a quartz in it like in the actual movie. But I'm going to do that after I paint it. So I'm going to divot out a section, and then once I'm done, I'll be able to figure out how I'm going to put that on there. It's most likely going to be either epoxy or I might cut out a little groove. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But eventually that'll get stuck on there. But that's pretty much all the work I can do right now. So I'm going to be honest, I forgot to record some things. First thing I forgot to record was I cut the divot out of the pommel. The second thing I forgot to record was I painted both the pommel and the handguard and the blade. So the pommel and the handguard, as of right now, are just dark gray hammered Rustoleum. And then the blade is silver metallic finish from the Rustoleum as well. So I put 2 or 3 coats. Originally it was a light gray hammered on the sword blade, and then I put some metal finish on it. I'm not done painting the blade. I got a lot of work to do. But when I said I was going to put a quartz in the pommel piece, I thought about it. I tried it. It didn't really work out well, and it was not the safest option. I'm not going to go into depth on that one. The other thing I thought about was, you know those souvenir rocks? You can get like the little bag filled with gems, and you can get them for like $2 or whatever at a random souvenir shop. I have a bag of those, and I have crushed them up before. Like I have a druid staff that I made that I crushed those gemstones with, and what I did is I'm thinking about either gluing this down and putting the little pieces of the busted gems into it, or I could do another safer option and do what I did with my infinity gauntlet. What I did with that is I took tin foil and I laid it flat, and in that case I colored it, and the hot glue held to the tin foil and it would reflect light. So I'm considering trying out the tin foil for now, and then if I don't like it, I will put into more effort and crush the gems, which takes a little bit of cleanup. You're going to need some sort of cloth over it. There's a safe way to do it. What you do is you have either a metal dish, or I put it on a concrete floor with a dustpan underneath it, like a metal, like steel dustpan, or some sort of metal dustpan that's big enough, and I put it down on the floor, and then I take the quartz or the gem or whatever, I lay it down, then I put a cloth over it, and I swing down as hard as I can, and it will keep it underneath the cloth. And then I have plenty of bits to use. That's one way to do it, but I'm probably going to try the tin foil first. So pretty much what happened was I tried that metallic paint out, and I learned the hard way that isn't really like a paint, it's more like a highlight paste. It's weird. So what I did is I took some king-size Sharpies, and I looked up a reference photo of whatever I could get of the blade from the actual movie, and none of the reference photos went past the halfway point of blade, not even the movie promotional posters. And even if I tried zooming in on the full-size blade, a lot of the times it was too grainy. So what it is, I looked up some other reference photos of a regular steel, not the movie kind, and the regular Damascus steel pattern, I mean, and I ended up just pretty much doing it by hand. So yeah, for about an hour and a half I did it all by hand with a marker. So I finished the blade, or at least the beginning of the blade. If I can get a light on, there we go. So yeah, what I did is I took a king-size Sharpie. I learned the hard way that that paint I was talking about didn't work, and you can see that the only paint that really stuck was in the center. So I took a king-size Sharpie and I did all the Damascus patterning by hand to my best ability, and then eventually just ad-libbed for the back of it. It was all just original from that part on. So what now I'm going to do is I'm going to take it outside and I'm going to lightly coat the blade, very lightly, just so it dulls the black, because that's a very strong etching. I want to lighten it up so it's not too strong in the eye. It doesn't take away all the detail, but just lighten it up so it doesn't look like it's been drawn on, just so it reflects and is. I just want to put a little coat and see what it looks like, and if I don't like it, I can retrace everything. So now what I did, this is the first time my camera's been angled this way. I did that light coat, which dulled out a lot, and then I traced over with a thinner Sharpie, rather than king size, so there's all the little etchings behind it, and then there's some new ones on top of it, which in some cases looks really good, and in other cases doesn't look so good, but I like how it turned out. So yeah, let's start putting it together. Or no, we have to start putting a little bit of gold on the hilt and pommel before we do anything. So what I did is I took the handguard and the pommel piece, and in certain light it looks gray, in certain light it looks yellow, or gold. I'm happy with this because I used King's Gold Craft Smart paint, and what I did is I put some on a tab and then just basically dry brushed a light coat of it. So it originally was that dark gray color, and in some light it's gray, like right there. I like it. It's cool. And I did the exact same thing with the pommel. So now it's time to put stuff together, and for the leather of the handle I have a old leather coat that I could cut up in numerous projects. So I'm going to cut that up, and then I'm going to wrap that around the handle, and then I have some leather strap that wraps around it too. We'll see if I have enough of that. So I'll do a time lapse of that as well. So this clip is me. What I did is I hot glued the handguard to the hilt, and I put it right in the bottom of the joint, and I didn't put it all the way down yet. So I could push it down and it would sink in, and I let it sit for a bit, and then I pushed it up. So then what ended up happening was I went and I tried to grab I went and cut that leather coat out so I could actually put the leather on the handle. So what I did is I was talking about the meantime. I use hot glue from a lot of my projects. It's pretty much the backbone of everything I've built. So yeah, most of my projects have it in some way, shape, or form. Most. So eventually I come back. The hot glue was done, and I got the leather one. I started immediately just wrapping it. I didn't even bother measuring it. I just wrapped it because I was guessing how much leather I would need, and I decided just to glue it on there, and I just pretty much put glue on one side and then used a lot of pressure and wrapped it to my best ability. And then what I did is when I got it to the other side where it was originally glued, I just glued on top of that one. And I actually ran out because I used so much on the one side to hold it. So I just put another on the top and pulled it as tight as I could, and then wrapped it underneath. And then from here on out, it's just a bunch of nitpicking of what leather is excess, and what can I cut off, and what can I safely keep. And the rest is just trying to keep it all uniform and flat, which there's some stuff left over, but it's okay. Basically what ended up happening was I had one side that was pretty rough, and I was meaning to glue that first, but I didn't. So I kind of glued it in reverse, but if I take the leather off now, it will ruin it, and I don't want to ruin such a nice piece. So yeah. This time lapse only goes to about when I finished the wrapping and putting the pommel on. I didn't get to the leather wrap, like the little X cross pattern that comes off with the leather strings. So yeah, this is when I started gluing in the bottom of the leather, try and wrap it completely. And the time lapse make it look like I'm just moving really quickly. It's only twice the regular video speed, so yeah. I love how this build is turning out. It's not one of my best swords, but it's going to be one of my favorites. Hopefully I can compare this to the Sword of Kings that I'm done, but I'm starting to look at the sword now while the glue is drying and not paying attention to the fact that there's hot glue dripping on me. And I actually get burned in one of these points. So I believe it's coming up. It gets all over my thumb, but oh god, I got it. There we go. Okay, we're getting onto the pommel now. I was kind of worried that I wouldn't be in frame. And what I did is there's a little crevice that I cut out, and I glued it right to the bottom of the hilt, and then I had to push the leather around it. So there's some fighting I had to do with trying to get the leather to wrap around the edge of the pommel. So that was another couple minutes or so of me being frustrated. There's a good view of the pommel not being in frame, because I'm not paying attention to the camera at all, and I realize that now, but I can't go back and refilm it. So yeah, pretty much just got it all put together except that leather strap that goes around. So it is currently 11:30. I've been working on this thing since 3:30. I've been working on it for 8 hours non-stop, and I have to edit the video, which is going to take another 40 minutes, and then upload time, but whatever. Yeah, I will post a video tomorrow, hopefully, of the final product, but this was how I made it. Now, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe today, and make sure you click the bell icon to receive notifications every upload. Good night, everybody.